Would you stand and sing this song with us?
All right, good morning. It's good to see you guys. How we doing? Here we go. Let praise be a weapon that silences the enemy. Let praise be a weapon that conquers all anxiety. Let it rise. Let praise arise. We sing your name in the dark and it changes everything. We sing with all we are and we claim your victory. Let it rise. Let praise arise. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. For fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side. Forever lifted high. With all creation crying, God, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Let faith be the song that overcomes the raging sea. Let faith be the song that calms the storm inside of me. Let it rise. Let faith arise. Yeah. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. For fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side. Forever lifted high. With all creation crying, God, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Oh, we say, this is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you, we praise you. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you, we praise you. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you, we praise you. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you, we praise. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. For fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side. Forever lifted high. With all creation crying, God, we praise you. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. For fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side. Forever lifted high. With all creation crying, God, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. We praise you. And I've searched the world, but it couldn't fill me. are never enough. Then you came along and you put me back together, and every desire is now satisfied here in your love. We say, oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing, nothing is better than you. Yeah. I'm not afraid.
counting on your grace again. Oh, less of me and more of you. I just wanna see you move. I hear you call. I am available. I say yes, Lord. I am available. I hear you call. I am available. I say yes, Lord. I am available. I'm available to you, God. Only for you, Jesus. Here I am. Here I am. You can have it all. You can have it all. Here I am. Here I am. You can have it all. You can have it all. Here I am. Here I am. You can have it all. You can have it all. Here I am. Here I am. You can have it all. You can have it all. Here I am. Here I am. You can have it all. You can have it all. Here I am. Here I am. You can have it all. You can have it For the one who gave me life, nothing is a sacrifice. Oh, use me as you want to, God. Have your throne within my heart. Oh, I hear you call. I am available. I say yes, Lord. I am available.
God, we ask that you would make each of us in this room, watching online, available to you. Move in our lives, make us more like you, and help us impact and love the people around us well. We love you. Amen. Welcome, Eastern Hills. If you're in the room, you can have a seat. If it's your first time here, a special welcome to you. Thank you so much for joining us. We'd love for you to text new to the number that you see on the screen right now. We would love to give you more information and help you take a next step here at Eastern Hills. It's a big church and we want to make it feel a little bit smaller for you and your family. We're kicking off something awesome this weekend. You might have seen when you walked in these 4 Aurora shirts, some folks wearing those out there in the lobby. we are relaunching our weekend backpack ministry. And if you don't know what that is, 1 in 5 kids in America struggle with hunger. And even in our community, it's true that there are kids and students who are on free or reduced lunches, and when they go home for the weekend, they have food scarcity, and they're not always sure where their next meal is going to come from. And so, what we have the opportunity to do is partner with some schools in our area and provide backpacks full of food for kids to take home and a hand up for those families who just need a little bit extra to get over that hump of the weekend and get back to Monday in a good place, ready to study and learn. So if you're interested in being a part of that team and serving in that way, we'd love to have you be for Aurora, for our city. You can go to ehills.org/weekend and sign up right there, or ask for more information in the booth out in the lobby. You can't miss it. Everybody's got their red shirts on. Whether it's backpacks for kids at local schools, or whether it is a movie on the lawn where we get to invite our neighbors to come experience a little bit of Eastern Hills, your generosity makes these environments and opportunities possible. And there's lots of people here at Eastern Hills who already give regularly, and we're so grateful if you are on that team. If you'd like to join the team that gives and be a part of what God's already doing in our community, you can go to ehills.org/weekend, find opportunities to give a one-time gift or set up a recurring payment and make that something that your family can prioritize and be a part of what God is doing for Aurora, for our community. Thank you so much again for joining us, and welcome to week 2 of Who's Behind Your Mask.
Welcome back to our series, Who's Behind Your Mask? I know some of you instantly went, oh, we're doing that again? This whole mask thing? While we have maybe had some experiences reoccurring recently about masks, that's not what this series is about. This series is about the masks that some of us have been wearing for decades, the ones that we put on when we felt some insecurity, and we just start putting them on so that people only know us by a certain version of us, a certain identity that we present. And we're gonna talk about what it looks like to kind of unpack some of that. In fact, last week, if you didn't catch it, you're gonna wanna go watch it because these build on each other. But last week, Phil talked about the layers that we put on in front so that people don't see the inmost parts of us, the parts of us that we don't even really want to acknowledge, the deeper, darker parts. And we talked about how we need to give access to those parts to God so that He can start working in us. This week, we're gonna talk about what it looks like to invite people into those layers and what community can mean for those things. Before we jump too far, we are also reading through the book of Proverbs throughout this month. There are 31 Proverbs and 31 days in August, and so you can each day just know what date on the calendar it is and pick up that proverb. And there's a reading guide at ehills.org/weekend if you want to join along with that. You can even just pick up today's and catch up some other time if you want. So join us for that as well. Before we start really diving into some stuff, let's just take a moment. Let's just ask God to kind of do some work in our hearts. Will you pray with me? God, thank you. Thank you that you are good. Thank you that you are God, that you are constant in a world where all of us are always changing and always putting on these facades. You are always you. God, help us rest in that as we come face to face with some of our own masks, some of our own messes. Will you help us just listen to your words, to your desires for us, and help us trust you in the middle. God, will you speak clearly to our hearts and our minds? In your name we pray. Amen. So about a decade ago, I was working as a youth pastor in a church in Anaheim, California. And Anaheim is known for one thing and one thing only, Disneyland. Thank you to all of you who said it with me. I appreciate. You can have $10 later. Okay, so Disneyland is the best part of Anaheim. And so for me as a youth pastor, I decided one year I was gonna go get a Disney pass. Now, before you think that I'm really fancy, let's just be clear, it was $20 a month for the SoCal annual pass. And I was living on an air mattress in my friend's apartment, so clearly my priorities were top notch a decade ago, okay? So we're good with it. But for me, having that Disney pass meant I could hang out with students all the time because all the students had one. And so we'd go and we'd have lunch on the pier and eat some soup, or then we'd go on a ride, or maybe we'd just walk up and down Main Street and get some coffee. It was an opportunity to hang out with students. They were there constantly. There was one student in particular, her name is Kelly, and Kelly had always had a Disney pass since she could remember, and she went all the time. By the time she was about 16 years old, she was going every other day. She would drive from her school in Huntington Beach over to Disneyland, and she'd hang out for an hour, maybe 2, maybe 5, and she went by herself. It was just something she did. But what she decided she was gonna do once she got her license and could go all the time is she was going to go as someone else. So she grabbed a fanny pack, which fanny packs are really cool now. I'm not so sure about 10 years ago, but we'll go with it. So she grabbed a fanny pack and she put on a fake British accent and would walk around and meet people. She'd go on a ride or two and then head home. Well, over the course of several months, I got to hear these stories grow and develop, and pretty soon she's telling me about her friends at the magic shop. If you don't know, on Main Street, there's a magic shop because Walt wanted one, so that's what they put in there. It really has nothing to do with Disney. But she'd go in there, and there are these guys, and they're 18, 19, 20-year-old dudes, and they're just hanging out, doing some magic tricks, and Kelly became friends with them. The problem is that Kelly became friends with them in a fanny pack and a fake accent. And the stories started to grow. Pretty soon she's telling the story of her parents and how they're still over in the UK, and she has an older sister who goes to school in Cambridge, and she's here on this side as a study abroad program, and the stories literally are just growing and growing. And next thing I know, she's like, hey, Kelsey, you wanna go to Disneyland with me? And of course, I have the pass for a reason, so I was like, sure. And I knew about all of this, was a little conflicted, like, should I tell her this is weird? But didn't say anything. And we get to the front gate. She says, oh, Kelsey, I forgot to tell you. They know about you. I'm like, oh, cool, you told them about your youth pastor. Like, that's awesome. She's like, no. I told them you were my older sister who goes to school in Cambridge's roommate, and you're also from London. Excellent. So I then had to decide, am I going to walk into Disneyland with my British accent and try my best to just go along with her lies? I will let you know, I did end up going with it. I'm not sure that was the right call, but I went with it that day. But my question for us is, while we may not put on a fanny pack and a fake accent, how many of us are wearing different identities when we walk into different spaces? How many of us are putting on different personas of who we are to try and get people to like us who are near us? And then all along the way, we're asking the people closest to us to join in on those lies because we need to keep up appearances. You may not have the fanny pack and the fake accent, but I guarantee you have aspects of you that you've recreated so that people will like you. But what Kelly had started to learn was that nobody could actually love her because it wasn't her. And I don't know about you, but that starts getting exhausting. Why settle for likes when you can experience love? And I get it, we do this all the time, right? We have curated lives and lawns in order for people to like us, but truthfully, it just leaves us lonely and tired at the end of the day. And we have come to a place in our lives where we start going, this is too much, this is exhausting, I can't keep putting on this mask, I can't keep asking people to join in this lie with me. Instead, I just want to be loved for who I am, not who people think I am. And so we have to start doing some work to undo some of the lies that we've created, The good news for us is we have some scripture that helps us unpack this. In fact, we're reading through Proverbs, and in Proverbs, Solomon is giving us all kinds of wisdom, insight on how to become the best versions of ourselves, how to become the people God designed us to be. He kind of gives this fight between wisdom and foolishness and how we can step into that. And quite a few of his Proverbs have to do with how we interact with one another. And so he's going to give us some advice on how to build community that is meaningful and intentional and filled with love, not just likes. The first thing that we need to do is choose wisely. Choose wisely. Now, choosing wisely is actually probably the hardest part, is who do you decide to let in beyond those layers? Who do you decide to let see the deeper, darker stuff that you don't even acknowledge? How do you decide what kinds of people get in? And my guess is most of us fall on one end of the spectrum or the others. Some of us on one end tell everyone everything and call it vulnerability and honesty. Others of us tell nobody anything and we call that privacy. But the truth is, both are just as dangerous. We're not meant to give everybody everything, and we're not meant to do it on our own. So how do we find a middle and choose what kinds of people enter into that space? Who do you let in? Well, Solomon says it this way in Proverbs 13:20. He says, whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. Whoever walks with the wise will become wise. This is pretty basic, right? If you hang out with wise people, you will become a wise person. If you hang out with foolish people, you will become a foolish person, or at least suffer the harm of their foolishness. We see this pretty clearly. In fact, if you have kids, you've probably heard it come out of your mouth as you become who you're surrounded by. If you're a kid, you've probably heard your parents say that to you. If not, it's coming. Or maybe it's the show me your friends and I'll show you your future. We know this for kids. We see it all the time, but we forget that that's still true even as we grow up, even as we get older. How many times have you been in a conversation with someone and you do some motion with your hands and you go, oh, I got that from so-and-so? We do it all the time, but we forget that it's not just our mannerisms or our tone. It is part of who we are. The people that are closest to us are going to have an impact on who we are becoming. But have you taken the time to stop and think about who your friends are? Do you look at them apart from your relationship with them and go, yes, I would love to be just like them. Yes, I want to grow to become a person that they are. Are you proud of who they are? Have you done the assessment to think about their wisdom before you allow them to enter into the deepest parts of who you are? He continues a few chapters later in chapter 27. He says, iron sharpens iron, and one man sharpens another. It's not just that if you hang out in close proximity to wise people that you will become wise. It's the people that you allow into the deepest parts of you. They are sharpening you. They are molding you. They are morphing you. And who they are is going to have an impact, just like who you are is going to have an impact on them. Are you two together becoming better versions of yourself? Are you two together growing? Are you looking at one another and honored by each other? Or are they sharpening you to be someone you don't really want to be? Because we're going to have an impact on one another. So choosing wise people to enter into your life, choosing people that you're honored by, that you're impressed by, that you want to become is important. Who you do life with matters. Just think about your friends. Do you like who they are? Do you trust that they like you? Do you think they're bashing you when you leave the room? Think about the kinds of people that surround you and the kinds of things that they do when you're with them. Are you okay with becoming that? Choose wisely those who get to enter into your world, because my guess is some of us have kept some friends around that we go, I don't even know that I like who they are. I'm not sure that that's who I want to become, but you will. When I was a freshman in college, I made my first group of friends. And what I mean by that is when you're pre-college age, your friends just happen, right? They go to your school, they're in your neighborhood, they're part of your sports teams. You're kind of insulated into some groups so that you can grow to become the person you are. Well, when you leave high school, no one tells you, you now have to figure it out on your own. Side note, if you're about to leave high school, it's harder than you think to make friends. And so I left to go into college and didn't really know how to make friends or know how to decide who to let into my life. And so I did what I had done my whole 18 years, and I just found whoever was closest to me. So my roommate, who is an amazing woman doing some incredible things in Anaheim, like I just am in awe of who she is. We decided to become best friends. We just close proximity. Well, we wanted more friends, and so we, again, close proximity, just found the people across the hall and said, all right, we're now a group. And we became friends. The problem was it didn't take me long to realize the impact they were having on me wasn't something I wanted. I didn't necessarily like who they were, and I was going to become them. In fact, we'd go to this coffee shop just down the street at midnight, because when you go to a Christian school, what do you do at midnight? You go drink coffee, just in case you were wondering. And so we'd go and we'd get coffee at this coffee shop, and it would take literally moments for them to start picking on people, for them to start making fun of whoever didn't come with us that night, for them to look down their nose at someone's music choice or art choice or t-shirt choice, for them to make fun of the drink that you chose that night. In fact, to this day, when I go out, I struggle. I love hot chocolate. I won't order it anymore, because one time they looked at me and they said, "What are you, a child?" And that criticism stayed with me. But it wasn't just that they were doing it, it was that I was beginning to see that I was doing it. I was picking on people. I was part of the gossip. I was part of looking down my nose at someone else's choice, and really I had no room to decide. I'm sorry for those of you that I've made fun of your Folgers coffee taste, okay? But I didn't like who I was becoming. And I had to make a decision that next year, as I was getting ready to go back to sophomore year. I almost didn't want to go back because I just didn't like who I had become. And I had to make a decision to go back to school and take these friends that I had given access to the innermost parts of me and move them out to some of the outer layers. It was okay that they saw layer 1 and 2 of who I am, but they didn't need access to my heart. They didn't need to be a part of me in that way. And so I just moved them out a little bit and made room for some other wise counsel, some other really good friends who would help me become a better version of myself, who would help me see me the way God did. And I love these people, and honestly, they've done some work in their own lives to become better people too. But I couldn't have them in my core because I was becoming them. And you might be thinking about the people around you, and you might be recognizing that some of them are not the greatest influences. And you might be thinking, well, eventually it'll work itself out. They'll become better people, like I'll be proud of who they are. Don't wait. Make the change now. Because if you show me your friends and they're your future, you don't have time to just sit and hope that one day these friendships will work out, because they're already impacting you. Make the change now. It is okay to take people out of that center spot and say, I'm gonna leave you out here. That is close enough. And I love you and I care about you, and I'm gonna love you right where you are. And then invite the right kinds of people. Choose wisely the ones that you give access to the inner parts of you. Because sometimes the people we've given access to like us, but they don't really love us. And you can't have that in your center, because we have some work to do as a community. Why settle for likes when you can experience love? And it's hard. It's hard to choose what kinds of people you're going to give access to and what kinds of people you just need to hold at bay, but it will make a world of difference in who you are becoming and who you are. The cool thing is, once you find some of those right people, once you get the people that are good for you, that help you see you the way Jesus sees you, pretty soon you can start to grow and become a better version of you, which brings you to the next step. Listen earnestly. Listen earnestly. When you invite the right kinds of people into your life, they're going to say things to you that are good for you, that are helpful for you. Listen to them. And we all know we need people to speak into our lives. We need people to share honestly with us. And if we know we need that, then we have to be prepared to hear what they have to say and take it in. Listen earnestly. If we're honest, over the course of the last year, our world, even probably most of us in this room, have gotten really good at not listening. So how do we back up and go, no, I need to hear what people are saying to me? In fact, in the Proverbs, Solomon puts it this way. In Proverbs 15, he says, without counsel, plans fail, but with many advisors, they succeed. Now, this is almost military or government, or like when you're putting a building plan together. If you create this plan and then you show it to someone, they have an option to help you make it better, to see the things you didn't see before. They can help you grow. If you don't show them the plans, your plans are really one-sided and you're going to miss something. You need that. And then he continues at the end of the chapter. He says, the ear that listens to life-giving reproof will dwell among the wise. Whoever ignores instruction despises himself, but he who listens to reproof gains intelligence. The ear that listens to the life-giving reproof has a chance to grow. When we take in the information that we need to hear, the things that the people closest to us need to say, it changes us, it helps us grow, it helps us miss some really big potholes that we're about to step in our life. We need to hear the words of those who know us the best. It's interesting though, over the last year, there's been a discovery. I think for a lot of us, we think the opposite of listening is talking, but it's actually not. The opposite of listening is isolation. And over the course of the last year, we've been forced into spaces of isolation where we can no longer listen to people, and we've taken that as an opportunity to not listen to people. You see, what happens is when someone says something to you that you don't want to hear, you just cut them off and move on. Someone else says something you don't want to hear and you just isolate, and you pretty soon have cut out the very voices you need to hear, and then you start speaking, but you didn't have the life-giving reproof helping you figure out what to or not to say. I think about this in terms of my life. Okay, so freshman year, had some rough friends, and then the next couple years, I developed some amazing friendships, incredible people who loved me and saw me and cared about me. Well, senior year, I started getting involved in some things that were unhealthy, some things that weren't good for me. I was falling apart a little bit in my own world, and my friends who had proven that they are good for me and had been in those deeper layers of my life, they said, Kelsey, we're worried about you. Kelsey, we care about you. Kelsey, we see you. But I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to listen. So what did I do? I just cut them out and put them to the side, and not loud, not harsh. I just slowly faded into the background of what was happening around me, to the point where when I left college, all of my friends got married and I wasn't invited to a single wedding because I just disappeared from their world. To this day, I have no college friends because I didn't want to listen. Instead, I chose to isolate. We all have these tendencies where when people start to say things to us that we don't love, we have an opportunity to stay engaged or to just cut them off. And over the course of the last year, we have cut a lot of people off. We have disconnected our ears from hearing the very words we need to hear, and it's gotten worse because not only have we cut off those we disagree with, but we've started to insulate with the people who agree with us. And so now it's just a circle of people who think the same, act the same, sound the same, and nobody is actually giving life-giving reproof. And so over the course of time, that leads to chaos and foolishness. Is that what our world looks like right now? It's the most chaotic and foolish our world has looked in a long time. Why? Because we've all given way to the isolation that destroys us. It's time for us to re-engage in relationships, reconnect with the people around us, and that starts by opening our ears and allowing people to speak, even if we don't like what they have to say, because we know it's good for us. In fact, this is what it says in Proverbs 18. It says, whoever isolates himself seeks his own desire. He breaks out against all sound judgment. A fool takes no pleasure in understanding, but only in expressing his opinion. We've created these cycles where we isolate from the people we need to listen to and we insulate with the people who like us and sound like us. And it's created very loud, divisive cultures. But it's not working. So now we go on social media and we post something because our insulated group will like it. But are we really growing? Love requires growth. It requires more of us. And we can't do that when we're insulated with the same people and we're not listening to the ones we've isolated from. It's time to re-engage our ears to hear the people around us. And I know it's easy just to spit out opinions and thoughts and we like the likes that come back at us. But why settle for likes when we can experience love? Why settle for just those voices that are going to keep us where we're at when the love can help us grow into something better? Now here's the reality though, from here, once we start listening, it's going to get more difficult. Once we have the right people, once we're hearing, we now have to invite honesty into our lives. And inviting honesty into our lives is a little bit more challenging. It means I'm gonna walk up to you and say, I need you to speak into my life. I need you to look at this area of my life with me. I need you to help me. And then I have to honestly give my thoughts back and I have to open up my heart. The problem is when I open up my heart in those deeper levels, I'm aware of the fact that this is a risk. There is a chance you could now hurt me because you now see the softest parts of me, the most insecure parts of me. And it's true, relationships are risky. Vulnerability is risky. But if pain is really part of the process, then we have to allow ourselves to engage in that process. We have to allow ourselves to become surrounded and open up to the people that are closest to us and invite them in and invite them to share honestly with you. Proverbs 27 puts it this way, and it's pretty harsh. It says, better is open rebuke than hidden love. Better is it for someone to walk up to you and go, what are you doing? Why'd you do that? Than for someone to love you from afar, but it really doesn't do anything for you. Faithful are the wounds of a friend. Profuse are the kisses of an enemy. Let me say that again. Faithful are the wounds of a friend. Profuse are the kisses of an enemy. Faithful are the wounds of a friend means it is more important that people are close to us, close enough that they can hurt us than anything else. And it's interesting because Solomon uses this word wound as kind of this dual meaning. On one hand, there's the wounds that come out of discipline, where your friend looks at you and goes, hey, that thing you're doing, not so good for you. You should stop doing that. And it stings a little that they called you out on something that is true, right? Inviting that honesty in, it hurts a little bit. And it leaves a little bit of a wound, but we know we need it. But then there's the other kind of wound, the kind of wound where when you open yourself up to someone, they can hurt you. And the truth is, they're also wounded humans who are also wounding you as you wound them. It becomes a cycle, but for Solomon, he's like, it is way more important that we allow people so close that they can hurt us because it means we've allowed people beyond the surface. In fact, when your friends hurt you, take that as a sign that you tried, that you engaged, and then go back to your friend and say, hey, that thing you did really hurt me. Can we work through it? And if they respond well, now your relationship is going to grow. Now iron is sharpening iron, and you can become a better version of yourself. The wounds are real, but it is part of growing. It is part of you becoming who you need to be. When you get hurt, you know that you've at least accomplished something in your relationship because it means they actually have access to you. And really, the kisses of an enemy is just fluff. The likes on social media, the compliments that mean nothing. They're really doing it for their own agenda. They don't care about you, and that fluff isn't making you a better version of yourself. It's not helping you grow into the person you need to be because they don't have access to the deepest parts of you, so how can they help you? How can they love you? It is more important to be that deep and that close with the people around us that they could hurt us. We need people there. You know, Kelly after her fanny pack and fake accent world has now developed these relationships with these guys at the magic shop, and it becomes very clear at some point that this isn't going to end well. At some point, there are two options. On one hand, she could just dip out and disappear, right? They work at the magic shop, just don't go in the magic shop anymore. On the other hand, she could tell them the truth and invite some honesty into her world and see how they respond. For her, she just eventually stops going to the magic shop, and that may have been an okay choice for her in that season of her life, but she learned something. She learned something about being the real version of herself to the people around her. And she could have given up, but she didn't give up. In fact, a year and a half later, I sat in a stadium in Huntington Beach. The beach is literally right outside of us. And she walks across the stage to get her high school diploma. And me and all of her small group and all of her friends, we cheer louder than any other section. Her name gets called and the whole world knows we're there because we had become her core. We had become the people that saw the inside of her. We didn't know Kelly as the fanny pack fake accent girl. Instead, we knew Kelly by the fact that her mom had been sick since the day she was born and barely got out of bed. We knew Kelly by the fact that her dad was working multiple jobs to try and take care of mom and to take care of her and was emotionally unavailable, and it hurt Kelly. We knew that Kelly was actually an only child, which was both the awesome part of her and the irritating part about her. We knew that she was selfish from time to time, but we also knew that she was fun and could make every environment that much better. We knew everything about her. And so as we had an opportunity to celebrate her victory, she knew that that celebration meant something because we knew her and we could love her. Don't you want that? A lot of us have been wearing these masks or these facades because we think it'll get people to like us. But what Kelly learned is when people really, truly know us, they have a chance to love every aspect of us, good, bad, and otherwise. That's real love. Last week, we talked about peeling back some layers, getting real with what's going on inside and allowing God to have access to some of the parts of us that we don't like to speak out loud. We also talked about how it's important to start bringing people in on that and sharing parts of our world with people that maybe we didn't before. And keep doing that. It's going to be a lifetime of figuring out how to give access to your heart to God and to people and how to be real. But this week, there's another step to the process. Don't move. When we start opening up, it gets really tempting to run or to isolate or to insulate or to hide or to just disappear from all the people that we just opened up to. My encouragement to you is stay put. Don't move, sit there. Allow your heart to be open with someone, and even if what they give you isn't what you want, at least the wound means you tried. Allow them access, and instead of making a joke and running out and being like, oh, I'm fine, it's all good, stay with it. Let them actually see every facet of who you are. Don't run away from the very people that can help hold you and love you and know you. Stay put, because then you have an opportunity to actually be loved. And why settle for likes when you can experience love? Peel back those layers and then wait and let people show up for you. I'm not super great at relationships. Over the course of my life, I've done a pretty good job of just cutting people off and moving on to the next group of people, but it ends up being really lonely and exhausting because you have to start over every time. Well, 3 years ago when I moved here, I made a commitment that I was going to stay put in my relationships. I was going to stay connected to the people that are around me, and I was going to allow them to see and know me. And I can't say that it's perfect, and I have a long way to go, but I have started to actually become that. I've started to invest in those relationships, and over the course of the last 3 years, I've watched God do some cool things in my community. Even in the last month, I can pinpoint a couple moments. One, I was sitting in my friend's office and he was talking and we were talking life and he finally just stops the conversation and goes, Kelsey, I see some things in you and I'm worried about you. And in the past, that would have been the moment to cut and run, and I stayed put and I listened, and he was right. There were some areas of my life that I needed to look at. And I've started to do that work. And then even just this last week, we run through all of our messages during the week with staff members, and they can kind of give some feedback and help grow what we're saying on stage. And afterwards, one of my coworkers calls me over and she goes, "You're better at this than you think you are." And I literally felt myself backpedal and start to think about what meeting I could pretend I have in that moment. But I didn't. I stayed put. You see, she knew me well enough to know how insecure I can be about being on stage. She knew me well enough to know that I never feel like anything is ever actually done and it could always be better, and what if I did this, and oh my gosh, someone else could do this so much better than me. And she knew the insecurities, she knew the deeper layers, and she had an opportunity to speak love into that moment, even though everything within me just wanted to run away, and I stayed put. Guys, it's not too late for you to have those kinds of relationships. You've been hurt, you've been bruised, you've been wounded, but it is okay to invite that honesty in, to invite people into the spaces of your life, and then stay put and be ready for the kinds of community that can be built out of it. It's not too late for you to have that too, but it means you have to be intentional. The cool thing is Jesus actually modeled this first. He lived an incredible life and had friends around him and showed them what it meant to be a friend, what it meant to show up. And then right before he heads to the cross to go die for all people so that all of us can experience love for the rest of our lives, he gives this advice as he talks to his friends. He says in John 15, "This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends." Some of the last words Jesus says is love one another and be willing to give everything for them. Keep fighting for them. And he knew he was about to go on a cross and introduce this love that would live on. He knew that he was dying on a cross so that we don't have to wear masks, but we can just show up exactly as we are and experience that love. And maybe you're thinking, okay, I don't even know where to start. I don't even know who to ask. Like, do I just pick a random stranger? No, that's probably not a good idea. But we at Eastern Hills want to be the kind of place where these relationships are cultivated constantly. We want to be the kind of place that you can find your people, your community. In fact, if you don't even have ideas, if you go to ehills.org/weekend and click the weekend resources button, there is a list of spaces that are men's groups and women's groups and student ministry groups where you can find people and slowly let them in layer by layer by layer so that you can have those kinds of relationships. And pretty soon we can discover that Eastern Hills can be the kind of place where we have meaningful community, where people see you at your worst and they won't leave you, where people can see you in your brokenness and they still want you, where people can see you in your insecurities and they still choose you. And then the really fun part, where you can see people in their mess and still fight for them. This can be your place where you can say, I'm all in and I need those people and I'm not giving up yet. And maybe I've had some rough experiences. Maybe where I've been hasn't been super helpful. But today I need to start anew and begin to choose the right kinds of people to enter into this journey with me, because you can't do it alone. And Jesus came so that you didn't have to. And we can band together to experience the life that Jesus has for us. You can be a part of that. It's not too late for you. It starts by taking the mask off little by little and inviting the right people in, and then watching what God can do in our lives when we say yes to being in relationships. Are you ready for that kind of community? Let me pray for you. God, thank you. Thank you that you didn't want us to do this alone. That you saw us at our worst, you saw us in our brokenness, and sent Jesus right at the right moment to introduce a new kind of love that can live on forever. God, help us to choose the right people. Help us to become the right people for others. Help us to listen well and accept the honesty. Help us to stay put when it's so easy to hide or isolate or run. God, help us to say yes to what you have for us. God, for those of us who have experienced brokenness in some relationships, will you help us see that we can do it again? It's not too late. And you have people that can love us well. Thank you for loving us first. We love you. In your name we pray. Amen.
Would you stand and sing with us? People come together, strangers, neighbors, our blood is one. Children of generation, of every nation, of kingdom come. And don't let your heart be troubled. Hold your head up high, don't fear no evil. Fix your eyes on this one truth. God is madly in love with you. So take courage, hold on, be strong. Remember where our help comes from. Oh, 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 oh.
Swing wide, all you
good singing, Eastern Hills. Man, what a day. So good to get to spend some time focusing on God and what he might be doing in each of our lives. I hope you can carry those words from Kelsey with you this week and think about who in your life you might need to let in to a deeper layer of who you are and see what God might do through that. Hey, if you're just joining us for the first time this weekend, would love for you to swing by the guest house after the service. Right out in the lobby, we have a gift for you. Would love to meet you and your family. And if you need prayer, you're like, man, that got me. I need somebody to talk to about this. There's some folks right outside the auditorium, just to the right as you exit, that would love to pray with you, would love to talk to you, and have kind of a moment after the service if you need that. And then obviously, you'll see it when you get out there, but if you want to be a part of the backpack ministry, would love to have you join that team. Check out who's got the 4 Aurora shirts on out there. They can answer some questions for you. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.